Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Pep Talk, Productive Environment Podcast. Today, we're going to inform you that nobody wants your blank. I can't say it because my mommy's in the green room. She's in the background, and I'm not going to say it out loud. But this book is called Nobody Wants Your Blank, The Art of Decluttering Before You Die. And it's also by the author's name, which we'll talk about in a few, is Messie Condo, author of Tidy the F Up. Okay, so you guys might be wondering what in the world we're doing talking about this. I am Andrea Anderson, CEO of Productive Environment Institute. I'm here in Carolina Beach, North Carolina, joined by...
I'm Barbara Hemphill, founder of Productive Environment Institute in Raleigh, North Carolina.
And I didn't tell Barbara what we were talking about today because she probably would have nixed it if she'd have seen the topic.
That is exactly, you are exactly right. If you had told me ahead, I would have said, no, we're not doing this.
Yes. However, stay with us, guys. Stay with us. If you know us, you know that's not our language. That's not how we talk. But what caught my attention, Eds, would you do me a favor and create an image of just the book, and I'll go ahead and remove this. I'll remove this so that way you can just bring it back up later. But it caught my attention. It was just something that popped up on Facebook. It was a book review of this book, and I was like, "What in the world are they talking about?" And I read the review, and they listed out all of these themes of decluttering and why it was important. And I was like, "Well, we agree with that. We agree with everything the book said, right? And we just have a different way of presenting that message." But I thought it was interesting enough for us to have a conversation about it. And we also realize that there are people who that book and that language can reach that maybe we wouldn't reach. And so if the message gets out to them, that's fine. But if you listen, there's an audiobook, which we don't recommend it, guys. We don't really recommend it because of the language. But I just want to point out that our philosophies are the same. So I'm thinking, who is this person? So the title or the author of the book is named Messie Condo, which of course is a play on Marie Kondo, right? And I thought it was funny, Barbara, because I live in a condo. And so I'm always, and even with the PEI condo, we always talk about the condo. So when I saw Messie Condo, I thought, this is great. So I did some research and found that Messie Condo, I thought, okay, it must be an actual person. And this is just her pseudonym. Is that the right word? Pseudonym? Is that the right? Am I saying that right? Yeah. And so... But thank you, Eds. But come to find out, it's actually not. It is, and it's not even AI. I thought the book was written by AI, and it wasn't. It's a persona owned by a publishing company. So my guess is it's a combination of people who came together and they gathered all of the popular organizing advice. Okay, and so, but the key is it's a shocker, it's shock language or whatever. Okay, we can take that down now. But I just want to point out that the concepts are very familiar and they actually are in line with what we teach. So want to talk, go ahead, Barbara.
Well, I just have one thing came to me. In the Bible, there's a place where the disciples are complaining to Jesus about there's other people teaching the gospel, and there are people who aren't believers even, but they're not teaching it in the same way. And Paul admonishes them and says, as long as the message is being spread, it doesn't matter. And I thought that is exactly what this is about. It's like, this is not the way we would say it, but what is being said is truth. And, Andrea, you and I have had some conversations lately about how many people we come across whose clutter level, they're not hoarders. When you think of hoarders, you think of filth and animals and all that kind of stuff. They're not hoarders, but they do have very, very deep levels of clutter that have been going on for decades, and paper is always involved. We don't have a single one where paper isn't involved. But the interesting thing is, it's hard to deal with the clutter of the paper until you deal with the other clutter, because you have to have a space. Like one of the first things we say is clear a space. Well, we have clients who don't even have a flat space where they can actually do it. So this is truth. I mean, I was thrilled. Andrea did a phenomenal job of saying what the Messie Condo message is versus ours. So I look forward to talking about it.
Awesome. I'm just going to go through a couple of the points, and then I'm going to share the best part of this with this project, I guess you could say, are the comments that other people were saying on Facebook. So I'm going to get to those in a minute. But let me just share some of the things on how we relate. So if you think about this, Messie Condo and PEI, same message, different messenger. Okay. Messie says, declutter now to free yourself, or the concept is declutter now to free yourself and your loved ones later. We absolutely agree with that. And our message is more of stewardship, managing what God has given you so it blesses others instead of burdening them, and aligns with our art, the art of organizing information, the toss step. T is toss, right? And then the other one that Messie says is call out your excuses and guilt. Now she says it in a more blunt, harsh, irreverent language. We're a little bit more gentle with ours. Sometimes we use gentle coaching questions and mindset shifts to help clients release items without shame. Okay. And then the next one is keep only what truly serves you today. So SOAR, our SOAR program is based on action, reference, and toss. So keep active use items, right? Archive what you might need later and let the rest go. We're in agreement on that. Okay. And then focus on problem areas first. And we say start with what causes daily stress. So paper piles, inboxes, cluttered desktops. And to Barbara's point, we do have clients who they don't have that. There is no way to start with the paper just yet until we clear a horizontal space. So it may mean gathering up big stuff, moving it out of the way, lining it up against the wall to create a space that you can now work from. Okay. So that's going to be your sorting area and so forth. And then prioritize people over possessions. Legacy is about impact and relationships, not accumulation. Barbara, that is your message. That's
literally, when you read that, I literally get chills over my whole body, because what I have seen in over 4 decades is how many relationships are damaged. And here's one: it's your relationship with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So it isn't just the relationship with other people, it's the relationship with yourself that it's damaging.
Right.
Because that's covering up things that you haven't dealt with, that you should deal with, grief and loss and whatever, but it's also preventing you from doing what you were created to do. And I remember very early on when I first started, I was doing residences, and I would get hired for people who wanted to sell their house. That was the thing. Got to clean this up. Got to sell my house. So and there was a motivation, right? There's a time factor. It's going to go on the market and we've got to get this done. And I cannot tell you how many, and not a whole lot of clients, because I quickly learned that was not my sweet spot for managing.
Mm-hmm.
But with everyone, without exception, after we got it decluttered, then people said, I don't know if I would have sold this if I had cleaned up the clutter first. And I've heard that so many times. Mm-hmm. And so the question is that means we're not treating ourselves with as much honor as we should. And that means that's displeasing to God, because God says that we are. I talk a lot about decluttering the 10 commandments. Jesus decluttered the 10 commandments because he said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul. Love your neighbor as yourself. Well, if you don't love yourself, then you can't love your neighbors. So it's like that. This is the one that's near and dear to my heart.
Yeah. So let me say that again, because so legacy is about impact and relationships, not accumulation. And that echoes Less Clutter, More Life, Barbara's book. Okay. Aim for progress, not perfection. We always try to celebrate small wins. We focus on grace and momentum. So all of those themes or messages are totally shared by us. If you're just joining us, we are doing a review of this book, and it is an interesting title. And we have discovered that Messie Condo is not a real person. She is a persona who has gathered up a lot of the organizing and teachings that are available, including ours. I was 10 minutes, not 10 minutes. I was 2 minutes into the audiobook, which I don't recommend if you don't like F-bombs, okay? Because it's a lot of F-bombs. But I was 2 minutes in, and they did the often misquoted, they misquote Barbara. So you guys, Barbara's quote for decades has been, clutter is postponed decisions. Okay, there it is. That is Barbara's quote. Clutter is postponed decisions. And she's often misquoted. And in this book, 2 minutes into the audiobook, she said, they say that clutter is nothing more than delayed decisions. And I was like, oh my gosh, they say. And the point with that, of her saying that, was that if you delay long enough, then it's going to be somebody else's decision about what to do with your stuff. Okay. So what most interesting to me about this were the comments that I was reading on Facebook, that somebody had done an AI book review of this book. That's what caught my attention. And I started reading the comments, and I thought, oh my goodness, let me bring these to Barbara and let's discuss them on a pep talk. So that's what we're doing here. Before we do that, let me share Kathy's comment. Kathy, New Path Productivity. Everyone deserves to live in their best possible space with the best possible mindset right now. Don't wait to get started. That is beautiful, Kathy. Thank you. Kathy Music. She's one of our certified productive environment specialists. We deserve it right now. You all deserve it right now. Okay. So Barbara, here's one. Last thing, this is somebody who read the review and they're commenting on it. She said, last thing I'm going to do is live a life thinking about what people don't want when I'm dead. I won't hoard, but I most certainly will surround myself with the things that bring me joy. Do you have a reaction to that?
I absolutely do. I completely agree with her that she should surround herself with the things that bring her joy. We all should. I mean, that changes. Okay. I've been rearranging my house because of the repairs that we're doing in it. We have different seasons of our life, but the part about not worrying about other people, it's giving, this is the linchpin in using that, which is make sure that you give whoever's going to be responsible for whatever you've got, make sure that you give them permission to do with it whatever they want. That is the best gift you can possibly give them, because I have sat for hours with people grieving over someone they loved, but very angry that they were left with such a mess. So there's a file cabinet up in my attic, and there's a sign on it that says, when I'm gone, nobody needs to go through this, pitch it, because it's something I wasn't ready to, although now I am actually going through it. But at the time that I put the sign, when I wasn't ready to go through it, it was memorabilia. It was memorabilia for my business. Nobody needed to go through my business memorabilia. I mean, they could if they wanted to. I didn't care if they wanted to, but I didn't want them to feel like they had to.
That's right, which is perfectly aligned with the next comment on Facebook. I should give these names. So the first comment was, her name was Ivy. This next one is Valerie. And Valerie says, but I want my stuff. I'm not dead yet. It brings me joy. I like looking at it. There are some things I no longer enjoy as much, and I can let go of those things. I donate all the time, but I'm going to keep the things I do enjoy. And here's the point, the key point. And when I'm gone, my kids can get rid of whatever they don't want. The important note there is to give them permission now. Right, Barbara?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly right. That is because it makes all the difference in the world. Then it's when the feeling they're dishonoring. So my father, a good example is my father. My father was a farmer. They were very poor, and he had junk piles all over the farm. And when he died, my brother wanted to clean it up, and he said to me, "Sis, this is so hard because I'm throwing away things that daddy would have kept. And if my father had just said, when I'm gone, do whatever you want with the junk piles, it would have made all the difference in the world.
I love that. I love that. So that theme, as you can see, the two I just read are I'm keeping what brings me joy, balancing joy versus burden. And I think, Barbara, you gave some beautiful points there. The next one, then, that leads into the burden side of things. So this is another theme, the heavy burden for loved ones. Okay. So Jill says, my elderly parents live in 5,000 square feet of clutter. There isn't a surface that isn't covered. There isn't a drawer that you can open. Sometimes I feel like I'm going to suffocate in their space because the clutter feels heavy. That is a burden. That is a burden. And she's here now and her parents are still alive, but guess what she's looking ahead to?
Well, and there are so many, that goes back to the one we talked about lately about how it impacts relationships. So I remember we had I don't think he became a client. He talked about being a client for a long time because his teenage daughter, they was separated. His teenage daughter wouldn't come and visit him because he had 150 boxes of paper in the apartment, including the room where she would stay. And so the motivation was, which is more important, the 150 boxes of paper or the relationship with your teenage daughter?
Yeah, absolutely. This next one was from Lisa. She said, as someone who lost both parents within months of each other, it is hard to deal with clearing out your loved one's home while grieving. We had to clean out the inside, the garage, and a storage unit. And so just think about that ahead of time. Okay. Jason says, when your stuff is too much, it goes from cherished to all junk. I cleaned my grandmother's house and basically all went into 2 roll-offs. I'm not sure what a roll-off is.
It's a disposal thing.
Like a dumpster kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Probably threw away here. This is to the point of, I think, the story you told earlier. Probably threw away valuable items, but sanity and efficiency came first. Because when you're in a rush, you're grieving, or you're in a rush and you're just like, we got to get through this. You're getting rid of things you normally wouldn't if you'd had time to think about it and maybe sell it or whatever. So yeah, but the sanity and efficiency came first.
And then often the other thing that happens is you don't have time to make the decisions. You're not willing to get rid of them. So they put them in storage units, and then they stay in storage units in some cases for years. And so they still end up being
well,
cluttered.
And they're costing time, space, money for the storage unit, and energy.
Because every time you think about it, I really should. I just talked with a professional organization yesterday, and they said, our biggest problem is our storage unit. And the reason it's a problem is because there's an employee who has been there for over a decade that everyone respects and loves. And that's her territory, and she's not willing to let go of it. And so the executive director contacted me about what to do about it. And I said, the solution there is that when it's an employee, that all of that stuff in the storage unit does not belong to the employee. It belongs to the organization, and it is the employee's responsibility to organize it in such a way that when they are not there, which is going to happen at some point. And she said she just never thought of it that way before, but that's the truth.
Wow. That's a very good point. Liz Fackelman of Davidson Organizing says, I'm pricing clearing out an apartment in Charlotte, North Carolina for an estate. And the sad thing is there are 3 storage units with contents that will be pitched or donated. 3 storage units. And who knows how long, I mean, Liz, I'm sure you know, but how long those storage units have been being paid for, the money that has gone into those. I mean, there's nothing wrong with using storage units if it's for a temporary purpose, right? It's like, okay, we got to get from here to here, and I need to store for a little while.
Well, I did that. My son was, I mean, he was a pack rat, and I tried everything. I bribed, cajoled, rewarded, trained, whatever. And when he was 16, I closed his door. Bedroom was on another floor, which was fortunate. I said, I'm going to close the door. And if it doesn't crawl out or smell, I'm not going to say anything. Well, then he joined the Marines. And when he joined them, before he left, I said, whatever you leave behind, I'm dumping. So if you want it, you better. Well, he didn't do anything with it. Well, I went in, here I was, the mother. I was 3 days in that room because there were things from mission trips and things like that I just couldn't bring myself to get rid of. So I did put them in storage, because when we moved to a small house to build our big house, I didn't have the space. I put them in storage. And when he came home, I said, okay, this is it. I've done it enough. Now you have to decide. And I expected him to take out tons of it. He hardly took any of it at all.
Yep. That is the thing. That's, in fact, it basically, one of the people says, basically kids only want a few items. You guys I'm not saying we, because I don't have children. So I'm saying you guys are keeping things thinking, oh, my children want this, or my grandchildren want this, and I'm blessed to still have my mom. Like I said, she's in the background here. And I can go to her house, and there's not a lot there that I would want. So you guys don't hold on to things thinking that we want them. So, anyway, that's just a point. So here, now this person, devil's advocate, she says it's a rite of passage. Okay. That it's a tradition to have to clean out your parents' stuff, versus a burden. She says, please, they can do it for me the way I did for 2 generations before me. It's the rite of passage.
Oh, how interesting.
I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah. But that's why I just love these comments. And then this one, so that person's name was Vala. Catherine says, I asked my 2 kids what they wanted when I die. My daughter wanted the family piano and grandmother clock. My son, I've never heard of a grandmother clock.
I do.
It's always been called a grandfather clock. That's interesting. Okay. My son and daughter both want a certain Christmas tree ornament and the bowl I make stuffing in. I mean, just a handful of things that have meaning, not everything in your house. Let it go.
Well, and that brings up that one of the big issues is the reason that my generation doesn't get rid of it is because our children and grandchildren don't want it. And we have to deal with that emotion. And we don't want to deal with that emotion of what does that say about my life? So part of what I work with clients is saying, okay, if they thought that was their legacy, right? They thought their china, their crystal, their artwork was their legacy. Well, then when they found out their children and grandchildren didn't want it, it's like, well, what does that bring up? So that brings up the question, what is your legacy? What is it? And you're never too old to get there, because there are plenty of stories of 90-year-olds that told their story that became their legacy.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And let me just do a quick plug here. You don't have to do this alone. There are experts, there are professional organizers, there are specialists. Like, for example, if you are in North Carolina, I'm going to come back to Liz. She's one of our certified productive environment specialists, and she loves to do that. This is what she does. She helps with the clean outs and the declutters and things like that. So if you're in North Carolina, look up Davidson Organizing. You don't have to do this alone. Okay. So now let's talk about, okay, what do you do? What do you do if you feel like I want the memory, or I want my children or my grandchildren to have the memory? So there's lots of ideas, but one is to take a photo of something and make a treasure scrapbook. So you could take a photo of something, get rid of the something. And there are different ways of getting rid of things. We're not going to go into that on here, but if it's valuable, what we're also finding, I'm working with a client who is finding that they thought they had lots of antiques. They thought they had valuable antiques that they were holding on to. And they've been going through this declutter process for several months now. And she told me the other night, she said, you know what? She said, I no longer call them antiques. I'm finding as I go to antique shops that they're just old stuff. She said the antique shops won't take it. She said there are things that I thought would be considered antiques and they would have value, but she's like, it's just old stuff.
And you just brought up Davidson Organizing, and she specializes in helping people identify what really is valuable and what isn't. So there are resources to help you do that, which is very important. And people are often disappointed, things that they thought were really valuable. My husband inherited a coin collection from a friend of his died, and the wife gave him a coin collector, which we spent hours and hours and hours sorting and whatever, and took it in. It was hardly worth, there were hardly anything in it that was worth anything.
Right.
It was hours. So you go back to, what is your time worth, and is it worth that? And it also has to do, my husband also has a coin collection, but his is very well organized, of course. And when he dies and he goes to his children, they will very quickly be able to decide what to do with it, because they'll be able to go to a coin collector because it's all there. It's not just bags of loose. They're identified. We've used the finding system. So the finding system has the coins organized in it, so that when he goes, that the family will be able to quickly decide what to do with it.
That's such a good point. And let me do another shout out, since Kathy's here too. New Path Productivity. If you're in Illinois, Kathy is in the Chicago area. And when you just said, Barbara, you triggered me, the inventory, basically inventorying what you do keep, right? And that's, our system is perfect for that. So keeping an what we call a file index. It doesn't have to just be files. It doesn't have to just be paper. You can index what you have, so you know that you even have it, because Hemphill's principle is, if you don't know you have it or you can't find it, it is of no value to you. So these are two of our specialists. So look them up. Okay, so let's talk about, let's see. Let me go to the next one. We're almost wrapped up here. So let's talk about the wake up call, learning from others' clutter. We cleaned out both my mom's and my mother-in-law's houses, liberating to get rid of the stuff. She probably wished that they had done it for her. Currently sorting through my parents' things. Both have dementia. Made me throw away my own clutter at home. Okay.
Well, that's an interesting, and those are two things I want to say to close up. One is that, first of all, before you go tell anybody else about taking care of the clutter, take care of your own. There is no message that's more powerful than being a role model, is one. But the other one is, you're reading the comments from Facebook. I went to Amazon and looked at the comments on Amazon, and there are hundreds, thousands of them.
Yeah.
And reading through, if you are struggling with clutter and you want to get some ideas, you can literally go through, and don't just look at the comments, the original comment, look at the responses to the comments, because that's where you see. And if you have clutter that you're not dealing with, reading that will make you come and fill out a scorecard with us quickly to solve the problem.
That's right. It will show you how to connect with us if you're new to us. Let me bring this up for anybody that's just joining in. This is the book that we are discussing. Okay. Nobody Wants Your Blank, The Art of Decluttering Before You Die, by Messie Condo, not a real person, author of Tidy the F Up. Okay. So what our point is with this is that it's the same message. This book was written, I think, by a group of people. It's a persona, and they've gathered organizing tips and philosophies from people, including Barbara, including Productive Environment Institute. And so we wanted to share that. So when Barbara said she went on Amazon, this is the book. So if you want to go read the comments, I do recommend it. I recommend read the comments, because I mean, it is an eye opener. And I think the comments alone, even if you don't do the book, because if you don't like F-bombs, don't do the book, but reading the comments will inspire you to take some action. Okay. So last few things here, the last comment I mentioned was by Amanda. This one was written by Rob. Started cleaning up 2 months ago. Feel lighter and free. Kids don't want your blank. Okay. So just keep that in mind. And then Becky says, label items, organize paperwork. We can help you with that. Leave a master list. We can help you with that too. So valuables don't end up in Goodwill boxes. Okay. So that's a brilliant idea, is to have the lists. Do your children a favor and get rid of stuff. You might not want the clutter, but you'll be more than happy with the money. So if you are able to sell some items, go ahead and do that. So we want to, first of all, let us tell you how to connect with us. If you're new to our channel, new to us, you can watch a free video at lesscluttermorelife.com. There's a 12-minute video there that gives you some tips on how to get started with decluttering and organizing your space. And our focus is more on creating a command center. So at least clear enough space that you've got some free horizontal space to create a command center to manage your life, to manage your business if you're a business owner, and certainly manage your life. So lesscluttermorelife.com will get you started. It will get you connected with us. And Barbara mentioned a scorecard. So let's get your productive environment score. So you can fill out this scorecard. It'll take just a couple of minutes. I think it's productiveenvironmentscore.com. Eds will put it up there. Yep, productiveenvironmentscore.com. And we would love to have you in our community. I want to just give you one challenge, and Barbara, you can add to this or comment on this if you like, but to just pick one space. And I would recommend that it's a space that could eventually become your command center, whether it's a corner of your kitchen, end of your dining room table, or an actual desk in your office. But clearing a space so that you can breathe and you have a space to sort and make decisions, because clutter is postponed decisions. Barbara, what do you want to add to that challenge?
I completely agree with the command center, and I love to work with architects to help people figure out where that command center, we often call it for the home office, for the business, and for business and life, because that's really what, and I've never met anyone literally that is successful without having that command center someplace. And it's important that it be a place you like to be. The other thing I want to comment, and you mentioned it in one of the comments, the phrase I have heard hundreds, if not thousands of times, once people begin to let go of the clutter is, I feel so much lighter. They just cannot believe. And I think of a client I had years ago that hired me for a long, long time, over and over and over. And one day she realized that when she traveled, her migraine headaches, all the health problems were gone. And it was simply because when she was in the hotel room, she was not surrounded by her clutter. And that realization made her say, okay, this is it. That was the wake-up call, because she realized that stuff was making her physically ill.
That's right. Wow. I love that. That's so true. When she got away from it. Last plug, I want to just share with you guys that you might be thinking, well, this is all well and good, and I would like to declutter. I would like to set up a command center, but I don't know how. I don't know where to start. On the screen is where to start. Okay. And we have certified productive environment specialists like Kathy and Liz that you heard from today, all across the country and in other countries. So reach out to us, get in our community. In fact, when you go to that site and watch that 12-minute video, then you'll be invited eventually into our Productive Environment Network, which is a community of people who half of them want to be organized and half of them are organizers. So, or maybe not half, maybe the percentage is different. But anyway, there is help for you. And whether we end up helping you or not, you get connected with us, we can at the very least help find you some help wherever you are. So thank you for joining us today. Loved this conversation, and check out the book maybe, but check out the comments on the book. All right. Thanks, Barbara. Thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you on the next one.